Imagine eating dinner in ancient Rome. On your plate you have black pepper from India, your tunic is made of fine silk from China, and you're drinking from glassware crafted in the Middle East. How did all these treasures, from thousands of miles away, end up in one place, long before ships with engines or airplanes even existed? The answer lies in the ancient trade routes. Think of them as the internet of the ancient world. They were vast networks that connected people across continents, not just through goods, but through ideas, cultures, and incredible innovations. They were the lifelines of civilization, and without them, the world as we know it would look completely different. So, what exactly were these ancient trade routes? They were complex networks of land and sea paths that merchants, pilgrims, soldiers, and travelers used for exchange. But they were so much more than just ancient highways for buying and selling. Along with precious goods like silk, spices, salt, gold, horses, and ivory, these routes carried the very building blocks of society. Ideas traveled just as fast as any caravan. Religions like Buddhism and Islam spread across continents. Scientific knowledge and philosophical thought were shared between distant scholars. Technologies that would change the world, like the compass, papermaking, and even gunpowder, found their way from one civilization to another. And, of course, culture in all its forms, art, language, music, and stories, blended and evolved as people from different backgrounds met and mingled. Without these connections, civilizations would have remained isolated, developing in bubbles, unaware of the world beyond their borders. These roots were the threads that wove the tapestry of human history. Let's explore some of the most famous of these great trade routes. First, the legendary Silk Road. This wasn't a single road, but a web of land routes stretching over 4,000 miles, connecting China with Central Asia, the Middle East, and eventually the Roman Empire. Its name comes from its most famous commodity, Chinese silk, a fabric so luxurious and mysterious that the Romans were utterly obsessed with it, willing to pay its weight in gold. But the Silk Road was much more than just a path for silk. It was a cultural superhighway. Porcelain, jade, paper, and gunpowder traveled west from China, while horses, glassware, and gold flowed east. Along this route, Buddhism journeyed from its birthplace in India to become a major religion in China. Cities like Samarkand in modern-day Uzbekistan became vibrant, multicultural hubs, where merchants from east and west exchanged not only goods, but also stories, philosophies, and artistic styles. It was a true melting pot of civilizations. While caravans braved the deserts and mountains on land, another revolution was happening at sea: the maritime spice routes. These sea lanes crisscrossed the vast Indian Ocean, connecting Southeast Asia, the legendary Spice Islands, with India, Arabia, East Africa, and eventually Europe. The precious cargo? Spices that were worth more than gold. Cinnamon, pepper, cloves, and nutmeg weren't just for flavoring food. They were used as medicines, perfumes, and religious incense. These sea routes allowed for faster and bulkier transport than was possible on land. Imagine a single ship carrying a cargo that would have required hundreds of camels. Arab traders dominated these routes for centuries, bringing spices to ports in the Middle East, where they were then sold to Venetian merchants. The immense profits from this trade sparked a fierce desire in Europe to find a direct sea route to the spice-producing lands, ultimately kicking off the Age of Exploration. Now, let's journey to Africa, across the largest hot desert in the world. The Trans-Saharan routes were a network of paths navigated by camel caravans, the ships of the desert. These routes connected the kingdoms of West Africa with the Mediterranean coast of North Africa and the wider world. What was so valuable in West Africa? Gold. Unimaginable quantities of it. The caravans would travel south carrying salt, a mineral as vital as gold in the hot climate, and return north laden with gold, ivory, and, unfortunately, enslaved people. This trade gave rise to incredibly powerful and wealthy African kingdoms like Ghana and Mali. The most famous ruler of Mali, Mansa Musa, became legendary for his pilgrimage to Mecca in the 14th century. His caravan was so vast and carried so much gold that his spending along the way actually destabilized the economies of the cities he visited. His wealth, derived from controlling these trade routes, made him arguably the richest person in all of human history. Beyond these massive networks, smaller, more specialized routes also played a crucial role. The Amber Road carried fossilized tree resin, known as amber or gold of the north, from the Baltic Sea coast all the way down to the Mediterranean, where it was prized by the Romans for jewelry and decoration. Meanwhile, the incense route brought frankincense and myrrh from the southern Arabian Peninsula and Somalia. These aromatic resins were essential for religious ceremonies in temples and for masking smells in royal courts across the ancient world. These routes show that even distant, seemingly small regions were intricately woven into the fabric of global trade, each contributing its unique treasures. The impact of these trade routes on civilizations was profound and transformative. Economically, they created immense wealth. Cities located at key crossroads or ports, like Venice, Constantinople, Timbuktu, and Baghdad, grew into bustling, cosmopolitan metropolises, their power built on controlling the flow of goods. Entire empires, like the Ottoman Empire, which controlled the overland routes to the east, rose to prominence by dominating trade. Culturally, the world became a more vibrant and diverse place. Art, music, and literature blended as influences traveled along the trade routes. For example, Persian miniature painting began to show clear influences from Chinese artistic styles brought via the Silk Road. Knowledge transfer was perhaps the most significant impact. The system of numbers we use today, often called Arabic numerals, actually originated in India, traveled to the Islamic world where algebra was developed, and then was introduced to Europe, revolutionizing mathematics and science. The Chinese invention of paper-making traveled a similar path, reaching Europe through Islamic Spain and making books and knowledge far more accessible. Astronomy, medicine, and engineering ideas circulated, accelerating progress globally. Religions also spread far and wide. Buddhism traveled the Silk Road to East Asia. Islam spread rapidly across North Africa, the Middle East, and into Asia, through merchants and missionaries. Christianity, too, found new followers in distant lands through trade connections. Finally, these routes were conduits for technological innovation. The compass, gunpowder, and printing, all world-changing inventions from China, spread to the West, where they would permanently transform societies and even the nature of warfare. New crops like rice and sugar were introduced to new regions, changing diets and economies forever. So, what is the legacy of these ancient networks today? In a very real sense, the ancient trade routes were the first wave of globalization. They laid the groundwork for the interconnected world we live in. It's no coincidence that many of the world's most important modern cities, like Istanbul, Dubai, and Singapore, owe their prominence to their strategic geographic locations, the same locations that made them vital trade hubs centuries ago. We even see modern projects, like China's Belt and Road Initiative, which explicitly aim to revive and strengthen these ancient economic and cultural connections. But the legacy is also in our everyday lives. The tea or coffee we drink, the spices we use to season our food, the cotton in our clothes, all of these are a direct result of the ancient trade that brought them across the globe. The next time you sip a cup of coffee or add a dash of pepper to your meal, take a moment to remember. You are tasting history. These simple items have traveled across the world for centuries, shaping civilizations, building empires, and connecting humanity in ways that were once unimaginable. The ancient trade routes didn't just carry goods, they carried the seeds of the modern, interconnected world we live in today. Thanks for watching. If you found this journey into the past fascinating, please give this video a like, and don't forget to subscribe and hit that notification bell for more stories about how our world came to be. See you next time.